Okay, so you got to bear with me a little bit because I'm going to be reading verbatim a lot of things, and I needed a fairly mindless class to do this on tonight, and what better class than a hunter, right? So it is today's news in Warcraft, bringing you the joys of World of Warcraft Classic played on a controller. And I'm telling you, I've had a hoot and a holler doing this. But it's mixed sadly with the horrors of today's news. And in today's news is a lawsuit that was originally filed back on September 26, 2024, in the state of Texas, of course, because why not Texas? And it was, and at that point, it was Texas versus the Department of Health and Human Services, and it's listed on the court docket as a plethora of states, and I'll go through the list in a second, but it would have originally started, if this docket's correct, as Texas versus Javier Becerra, who, in his official capacity as Secretary of Health and Human Services, United States Department of Health and Human Services, not resources, sorry. I keep thinking like it. The states usually have DHHRs, don't they? Or is yours a DHS? Tell me, I want to know. Because it's interesting to see what different states call their stuff. So in any event, it's been enjoined by a gaggle of other states, and either Alaska is the second state to enjoin, so it would be Texas, Alaska et al., or the state of Texas is going to have to admit to an alphabetical order issue because it's not an ABC order. The rest of the list is, but Alaska is before Alabama, which is not ABC order. But in any event, here are the list of states, okay? So you have Texas, Alaska, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, South Carolina, South Dakota, Utah, and West Virginia. So, as you can see, the list is all red states. There is not a single quote unquote blue state in any of the plaintiffs, okay? You could debate that Georgia is a purple-ish state, but I I'm now thinking 2020 may have just been a fluke. It could have been. I just don't know. I just don't know. But I don't deny the 2020 election. I mean, I know Joe Biden won it. I'm not stupid. All right, so let's send Rory in. All right, so basically what they're suing over is this rule that says that individuals who are transgender, meaning and it's like it's a change that just never ends, because that's what somebody told me it was once. That was and they were trans, by the way, and they said, it's kind of like it's a process that just never ends. So all right, so in the event, where's that other? Oh, wait, it is there. Okay, I need to go get it. Okay, so basically, they're using the specter of transgender people, because it is an ongoing process. And I'm trying to scroll down here because somewhere in the 30s is where I need to have this verbatim. Yeah. No ambient lighting. Even in their newest ones, they didn't have it. Oh. Sorry, we're car shopping. So, nope, I'm in the 20s now. I need to hit the 30s to find this. Where was that? No, that's not count one. It was count three. Where's count three? I've got it pulled up here, and you can get this at texasattorneygeneral.gov. Okay, now I just lost it. Oh my gosh. It was count three. There's count two. There's count three. There it is. Okay. And that's where I need to read it verbatim. Okay, but I'm going to come over here to a different website, and it's the Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund, DREDF.org, and they've did one, and it was published January 24th of this year, updated February 12th, and it explains this really well about what they want to do. And again, I will read part 3 verbatim, okay? And understand what's being done. They are using the specter of transgender people to destroy special education. And again, part 1 and 2 are about culture war trans stuff, and I'm not saying that to belittle anybody. I'm just saying live your life. Okay, but okay, so here's how they do this at dredf.org. Okay, this is how they explain Section 504. Okay. Section 504 is an important law that protects people with disabilities. Section 504 says you can't discriminate against disabled people if you get money from the United States government. So they're saying that from the Biden administration, there was something about how gender dysphoria is now a covered clause under Section 504. I believe. I don't know exactly how they worded that, so don't take my exact wording there as gospel. Okay, don't ever take my word on that as gospel. But basically, let's go on to discriminate, and then they define discriminate for those in Generation Alpha. To discriminate means to treat people badly because of who they are. Section 504 says you cannot treat people badly because of their disabilities. Now, Section 504 has rules that explain what disability discrimination is. The rules say that places like schools, hospitals, and doctors' offices have to include people with disabilities. The rules say, hang on a second, the rules say what these places have to do to include people with disabilities. Anyone who gets money from the United States government to serve the public, I lost my spot, sorry, or do business has to follow the rules. Okay, so you're not allowed to discriminate against people because of a disability. The United States government finished the first Section 504 rules in 1977. Many disabled people protested so the government would make the rules strong. The United States government updates the 504 rules over time. The government just finished updating the rules in 2024. Okay, so why is this important? And let this sink in because they want to rescind it. And I will read this verbatim because this is public knowledge and information. Okay, let this all sink in. Are you? No, you're not a glowy thing. No, nope, there are no glowy things. Ooey. Okay, so the rules in Section 504 say the following. All right, schools must include students with disabilities and help them learn. Let that sink in for a minute because we're going to be coming back to this. Doctors and schools must have sign language interpreters for people who are deaf or hard of hearing who sign. Videos must have captions. Okay? Doctors must give clear information to disabled people. This includes people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Websites for schools and hospitals must work for people who are blind and low vision. And yeah, you have a screen reader basically, and it has to be compatible with a screen reader. Which is not an unnecessary accommodation. And doctors and hospitals must have tools and machines that work for wheelchair users. This includes machines that check for cancer. So they have to be fairly inclusive and make sure you're not leaving anybody out to do stuff like scanning for cancer. Okay. So these Republican-led states are wanting to lead under count 3. And this is on page 37. Okay, you can download this right now from the Texas State Attorney General's office. Just letting you know where I got it from. And it is legally acquired. It's not through any link, it is from their website. Oh, come on. My heavens. That was a hard one. So, count 3. Section 504 is unconstitutional. U.S. Constitution, Article 1(8), Clause 1 is what they are citing this against, because you have to cite when it's unconstitutional against, okay? You can't just say it's unconstitutional. You have to have a reason. You have to have a cited reference within the document. So they're saying that it's an overstep of Congress's powers under Article 1, Section 8. Okay, and that's important for the overall case, because that's what the court and that's what the justice has to frame this against. Okay, they have to frame it against what they're being accused of violating. In this case, Article 1, Section 8, saying that Congress has overstepped its bounds. So I'm at paragraph 221, okay? I'm not going to go by paragraph numbers because it's just ridiculous. I might eventually say one just to keep you updated, but I am starting at paragraph 221. All other allegations are refuted and re-alleged as if fully set forth herein. So this is basically, read the rest of the document, but it's a lot of transwashing in order to get to this piece. This is the red meat of the trial. It's not it's not a trans-only issue. Okay, so let's come back here at 222. Under the Rehabilitation Act, quote, no otherwise qualified individual with a disability in the United States, ... shall, solely by reason of his or her disability, be excluded from the participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. The Rehabilitation Act, that's unquote. The Rehabilitation Act, by its own terms, applies to all recipients of federal funds, both funds dispersed under the Act's funding mandates and any unrelated federal spending. The Rehabilitation Act, therefore, imposes a condition on the receipt of any and all federal money. Recipients must choose between compliance with the Act and use of any federal revenue. So if you don't comply with the Act, you don't get money. That's what they're saying, and that's, oh boy. This might be the end of us, Rory. You may be coming back. Stay up, baby. Hang in there. I will be back at 225 in just a moment, or if Rory and I do not survive this. Either way, I still don't think we're going to survive it. I'm sorry, Rory. Oh, I am totally gone. I am a goner. Oh, dear. Can I make it? No, because here comes another one. Oh, there's the coffin one. Okay, I gotta remember what that is. Yeah, I am totally... Oh, how'd I do it? Oh. I'm so sorry, Rory. I'll have to revive you. He won't be happy. But while I eat and drink... Yes, while we eat and drink. Okay, so the spending... Where I'm at 225. The spending clause grants Congress the power to, quote, pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare, capital W, welfare of the United States. U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. Okay, and again, that's what they're labeling this against. Okay, where's revive? Oh, that's dismiss. There it is. Now, 226. When Congress exercises its spending power, principles of federalism require that conditions on federal expenditures must be 1, quote, unambiguous, quote, so that states are able to exercise their choice knowingly. There we go. Cognizant of the consequences of their participation. Quote, okay, related to the, quote, federal interest in the project. That was 2. 3, spending must not, quote, induce the states to engage in activities that would themselves be unconstitutional. And 4, spending must not, quote, be so coercive as to pass a point at which, single quote, pressure turns into turns into compulsion, single quote, double quote. That's South Dakota versus Dole. Also, check against Charles C. Stewart Machine Company versus Davis. I'm at 227. Get him, Rory. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act violates the principles of clear notice, relatedness, and anti-coercion, so they're going for gold. First, the Rehabilitation Act provides clear notice to states, preventing states from voluntarily and knowingly exercising choice in accepting federal funds. Grants to states under the spending clause are, quote, much in the nature of a contract, quote. National Federation of Independent Business versus Sebelius, citing Barnes v. Gorman. Okay, I'm going on in that 229 paragraph. Quote, the legitimacy of Congress's exercise of the spending power thus rests in part on whether the state voluntarily and knowingly accepts the terms of the contract. Quotes. They're quoting Pennhurst State School and Hospital versus Halderman. The quote continues, and Congress may not use federal spending to exert a power akin to undue influence, quote. And that's quoting Stewart Machine again. Now, I go on. But wait, there's more. Any conditions on the grant of federal monies must be imposed unambiguously. Pennhurst is what they're citing there. Quote, there can, of course, be no knowing acceptance if a state is unaware of the conditions or is unable to ascertain what is expected of it. So they're stating this is a very ambiguous, constantly moving target. Section 5, to go to 231. Section 504 attempts to retroactively modify pre-existing, I need to reapply, and unrelated agreements between states and the federal government because it adds a condition to all federal grants, including grants under older spending legislation. How'd you get there? So hang on just a second. We'll get this other frosted lucky lizard, and then I'm going to go on in this. There's more. There is more and more to this. Hang on. I'm at paragraph 231, by the way. These guys are tough. I don't know if I'm a fan of these frosted lucky lizards. Oh, I never finished you. How did I not finish you? There you go. All right, I go on at 231. Section 504 attempts to retroactively modify pre-existing and unrelated agreements between states and the federal government because it adds a condition to all federal grants, including grants under older spending legislation. Okay, 232. Section 504's universal scope unfairly surprises states by retroactively adding conditions to pre-existing federal spending programs. Like I said, they're stating it's a moving target. The Act's conditions are not limited to federal spending that post-dates the Act's enactment. Accordingly, they attach to funds distributed. Unfair. Get him, Rory. Hey. I know, now I'm dizzy. That. Oh, Oh, I need that. Hang on a minute. Yeah, get rid of the cloth. Silly, why am I keeping linen cloth? Okay, so like I said, they're saying it's a moving target. The Act's conditions are not limited to federal spending. The payment. Yeah, we already read that one. Okay, retroactive spending conditions fail to provide state recipients fair opportunity to, quote, voluntarily and knowingly accept the terms of, quote, the federal grant. Sebelius, that's who they're quoting there, through Congress's power to legislate under the spending power is broad. It does not include surprising participating states with post-acceptance or retroactive conditions. That quotes Pennhurst. Section 504's retroactivity means that plaintiffs could not have known they would be burdened by the Rehabilitation Act's requirements when they chose to participate in earlier federal programs. So they're saying because of the fact that it is a moving target, that there's they're going on and on about the moving target. I missed. There you go. Second, the Rehabilitation Act fails the relatedness test. To pass constitutional muster, conditions on federal spending must be reasonably related to the federal interest in particular national projects or programs. That's from Dole, the Dole ruling, quoting Massachusetts versus United States in 1978. I lost my spot, sorry, because I was looting. Relatedness is satisfied when a reasonable nexus exists between the conditions placed on state recipients and the overall objectives for which Congress authorized particular federal funds. That's Ivanhoe IRR District versus McCracken, and that's from 1958. However, by roping in all federal spending, Section 504 fails any relatedness test imaginable. While the purpose of Section 504 is to promote employment opportunities for the disabled, the Act imposes its requirements on federal funds dispersed pursuant to legislation totally unrelated to disability. So they're saying it goes against. So they're saying what they're saying is that they're trying to tie federal spending onto 504, but they say they're including all federal spending and not just 504 level spending. Third, come back here. This is paragraph 235, in case you're keeping track. Third, the Rehabilitation Act is coercive spending legislation that falls afoul of the 10th Amendment's prohibition. Come back here, I'm just going to have to get you, aren't I? On federal commandeering of state government. The Constitution simply does not give Congress the ability to require the states to regulate. That's New York versus United States. That's from 92. And because that is so, federal legislation that forces an impossible choice on states or that surprises states with ex post facto conditions undermine the status of the states as independent sovereigns in our federal system. That's the Sebelius ruling. When, quote, pressure turns into compulsion, that legislation runs contrary to our system of federalism. Quote, it's same at 578. By enacting Section 504, 29 U.S.C., Section 794, Congress, quote, crossed the line distinguishing encouragement from coercion. You think they would have done this back in the 1970s when this was first done. And that's quoting New York at 175. Section 504 applies with extreme breadth to any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance, meaning that every recipient of any amount of federal money allocated under any statutory scheme must comply with the Rehabilitation Act and regulations promulgated under it. Thus, the Texas Department of Agriculture must, per the Act's terms, ensure compliance with Section 504 despite receiving no funds pursuant to the Act or any other federal legislation related to disability. Because the Act attaches its requirements universally to all federal spending, it forces an impossible choice on the states, all of which must decide between implementing the Rehabilitation Act and accepting any amount of federal money. And again, this is the most important part of the whole thing. They want to outlaw this. When spending conditions take the form of threats to terminate other significant independent grants, they are openly viewed as a means of pressuring the state to accept policy changes. And that is Sibelius again. Section 504's universal scope renders it unconstitutionally coercive condition on federal spending. We're almost done. Because Section 504 is coercive, untethered to the federal interest in disability, and unfairly retroactive, the Rehabilitation Act is not constitutional under the Spending Clause. The constitutional violation posed by invalid spending legislation can be remedied by injunctive relief that precludes relevant federal officials from withdrawing funds. I've had to read a lot, sorry, for incompliance. I'm getting tongue twisted left and right off of this. Sorry. So that was from Sibelius again. So what they're saying is they want to get rid of Section 504, which covers disability. Oh, crap. Run. Ew. Okay, so that covers disabilities. That covers your child's IEP. Because that's what the law says that schools have to do. Using, again, we as the royal we, not we as in me. Now, come on. There you go. Excuse me. I felt that cough coming, and I didn't want to do that. But yeah, this takes your child's IEP and tosses it in the trash. Which means, and these are all red Republican states, so obviously Republicans are hating children with disabilities for some reason. Why is that? I don't know. Why isn't anybody asking these questions? In all seriousness, why isn't anybody asking these serious questions about them? Why do they seem to hate children? Why do they seem to hate feeding children through USAID? Why do they seem to hate children why do they seem to hate children with disabilities or children that starve or, things like that? Why do they hate this? And if they hate it so badly, why don't they want to end it? And for those parents who went and actually voted for that man, thinking he was going to do something amazing for your child with disabilities, all I've got to say is haw, haw, haw. Haw, haw, haw. Because guess what? He just did it to you again. And if Section 504 is outlawed, it may become the case that you can wave that little IEP paper around all you want, but you no longer have to follow it. Because guess what? 504 is now unconstitutional. And that may have covered your child's IEP. So great job, parents. I'm so proud of you. I hope your disabled child is extremely proud of you for voting that way that you did. I really hope that child with autism that you have in your house is very proud of you for voting for Donald Trump and eliminating his need and destroying his or her services in school. I hope you are so very, extremely, extraordinarily proud of yourself. And after this lucky lizard, I am going to call it a night with you. Because these lizards are hitting really hard tonight for some reason or another. But again, I hope you are so proud of yourself. Absolutely, I hope you are so proud of yourself. Ooh, we got a lot to sell, too. All right, we're going back. So, while we hearth for today's news and Warcraft, this is Ainann with Rory, the Bear Cub Cat, wishing you a great day and great gaming. Goodbye, everybody.